Hey, in this lesson, I'd like to talk about camera tracking or match moving and adding a CGI element into a real footage. Um, I don't usually do camera tracking myself, and uh, so I can consider myself as the a match mover guy. But it's a very interesting topic of visual effects, and I do sometimes dive into camera tracking and uh, try to practice it whenever it's possible. So, what do I know? What do I know about camera tracking is that the most important thing in camera tracking or match moving, it's a data, it's information that you can use to do the camera tracking properly. uh, the more data you have, the better, but the most important data is usually the the camera data is that uh, frame format, frame rate, and length um, of your camera. Okay, the focal length, the lens distortion. It's also good to know what height you're shooting, and it's also uh, it's also very important to have some data about the the distance, the size of the object in the scene, so you could use it as a reference to match it. Okay, and also the camera trackers, the trackers themselves, which you place in your environment before you start shooting. Um, uh, and Also, it's very convenient, so you place those trackers so they could keep in the scene naturally, so you don't have to, let's say, clean them up later in the compositing. Another thing that I'd like to mention, it's you need to have a, in my opinion, you need to have a good camera without all those vibrations, rolling shutter effects, which is very distracting. It actually um brings you a lot of problem. So good camera uh, and also good shooting. If you better to have your camera move smoothly, um, you could track it properly. There is sometimes kind of very aggressive shooting where you probably can use most of the time manual tracking. In my opinion, again, um, um, and yeah, I think that's about it. What I know about the camera tracking. So the more information you have, the better your tracking will be, and the easier uh, you will be able to track or match move your footage. Okay, so in this basic lesson, I actually I I found from the internet simple simple video. Um, so um, okay, and I don't have any information, but you can use the um, you can use the properties or metadata which keeps the information about the footage. So we have a frame rate in this case, and resolution of the shot, and yeah, um, this is all that we can use, and this is all we have about the video. And it's also good to to make a sequence of images, which is better most of the time, and most of the software reads sequences easier. Okay, so uh, um, I'm using the Nuke in this lesson as a tracker and compositing application. But there is also plenty of software that does the camera tracking. Blender can do the camera tracking, which is very convenient because it's free and it has it's like all-in-one software. It has the editing capabilities. It has 3D, 2D, and now it has also tracking capabilities. There is a Boujou software, 3D equalizer, and Synthesize, as far as I know. Now there is also an After Effects that has the camera tracking possibilities, but I'm not sure whether you can export this data. Maybe only uh, uh, maybe only export data to Cinema 4D, which also has camera tracking possibilities. Um, yeah, so if you're like Cinema 4D or Blender user, it's very good because you don't have to switch to another software where you can just work in one software. Um, so so the basics of tracking, what those camera trackers usually do. So we have video, and the camera tracker usually does some calculations first. The information that you give it, it tries to calculate. It's it places a bunch of survey points which gather the data, and then you need to solve all this information, and then um, you have to kind of correct the placement, the orientation of the scene, so you could add your objects easily, because sometimes the data and the tracking, the result of tracking may be uh, very good, but the orientation of the camera may be wrong. So you need to kind of fix uh, these orientation problems, and also the scaling. You might need to fix that as well. Um, and But most of the time, I think scaling um, is um, uh, is done correctly with the tracking itself. Okay, so in this case, So what I'm doing first, I'm tracking my footage, okay, and then after I'm having this information, I am solving it. Usually, this error threshold, it should be around one or less. Okay, the less is the error, the better is tracked. Okay, and uh, also before you start tracking, you can give like you can assign more points uh, to be put in the scene. Okay, and also you might want to control the distance. The longer the distance, the better, because like if each of the survey points will keep the data for a longer period of time, it means that this tracking is much better, and those smaller short short tracking points are usually being deleted, but it also depends on your scene, which type of footage you're tracking. If it's kind of a very fast moving and a lot of jittering happening, so you have to look at the scene itself, like what type of footage you're tracking. Okay, so it depends. Also, you can do the manual tracking, so you can put some manual trackers and also use this data to correct uh, your track. And the uh, if the situation in the situation where you can't track properly, you start doing a manual tracking. So you pick up geometry, you place it. It's good when you have size. I mean, it also may be a, let's say, a human face or a hand. It usually called as rotomation, but you can also call it like a manual tracking. Okay, when you do everything by yourself. Okay, but let's say we have a good tracking, but sometimes we have some small noise. So after you get the track that you need, you might want to put some filters onto the camera movement, so it has a more uh, smooth version, uh, which also gives you some proper uh, tracking results. Okay, so as I said here, I put some values. In my case, in Nuke, I add a lot of points just to kind of um, do a lazy tracking, let's say, okay, without any user tracks being added, and simply track without any additional information or information that I've used in this camera tracking node. And I have my frame rate, frame uh, the length of my footage, which I would like to track. Okay, and after I track, I solve. I do a few fixes like um, deleting unsolved point and those red dots which are rejected ones. Okay, and then after it's done, I do an update solve. In this case, you should say 300. Okay, so it updates the solve, and now I have 9.3 093. uh, you need to actually to look at your scene. Okay, so in this case it was zero point 0.9, but now it's 0.93, which is the error increased in this case. So I leave it as it is, but I hope you understood the basics, and what I'm trying to kind of to explain. Okay, so and then just to see how my tracking, the result of my tracking, I'm placing the card. So if I press tab in this case, for example, there is a point cloud that I have, and I'm just looking uh, at my point cloud, and I see here's the bench. Okay, and so I'm flat on the ground. All these points, and I'm putting according to my point cloud, I'm putting this grid, this card, and to see it in the scene, I see. So it it stays where it is. Okay. Okay, so so whenever we have a decent result and we are ready to dive into 3D and play some CG into our footage, we just export it most of the time. Nowadays, we're using Alembic file format, which is, I think, very good to work with. Okay, and then we switch to our 3D program, and uh, here I have my tracking, and let me look through the camera. So don't forget to use the same frame rate, because otherwise you will get an error. Okay. So here I placed my character in the scene, and I'm trying to replicate the environment, but in this case we have very um, kind of a uh, like the bench. I mean, it has some details which I didn't spend time uh, because uh, of the complexity of the lesson. Okay, it's a different uh, different theme of modeling the real objects. So I imitate the bench as I could, and here's my character, and here's the ground and the bench. And uh, after I'm ready to render the scene, um, uh, I will try to um, after I've prepared the scene, I need also to place lights to match the footage. Okay, so it's good if you have like an HDRI of the scene. Okay, but if you don't have, you have to kind of imitate the lighting. Okay, so you look at the shadows, at what degree they're kind of being projected, and the warmth of the scene. Okay, so you need to take care of different aspects to match your lighting. Okay, and it's also it would be good to separate your lighting so you could match it separately. Okay, in my case, I will not spend that much time, and I will use the basic lighting, which is environment light, and the key light, the sunlight in this case. Okay. So whenever you uh, uh, do rendering for your scene, uh, for your compositing to a real world footage, it's better to have as much layers as possible, um, because say because in my opinion, the visual effects, it's not an architectural rendering, or I don't know, the visual effects. In the visual effects, you prefer to have um as much possibilities to solve the problem very fast, and that's why you have to cheat a lot, because if you do it like properly, it will take a lot of time, and if there is some changes or mistakes, it would be very painful to actually to solve all these problems. So you need to know how to cheat in visual effects. That's my personal experience. I might probably not know a lot about some other secrets or um, something else, but in my experience, I do cheat a lot. I try to cheat a lot because I know that if you try to do everything correct in visual effects, it really takes a lot of time. Okay, so here I have uh, my main character. Here's the cigarette in the character's hand. Um, I simply want to add some meaning to this sitting character of not just simply sitting, but also uh, smoking, spending some time. Okay, so here I'm using some basic materials, nothing fancy, and um, yeah, some basic materials, nothing special. And here we have distant light. I try to uh, place it as much as possible as in here. Okay, and the fill light the environment light, and that's it. That's it. So here I have uh, the character. I rendered separately the character itself. Next, here by using render geometry settings, I changed some properties of the geometry. In this case, we're talking about swap tree. Let me turn this off and turn this on. And here I'm changing the properties of my bench in this case. Okay, so I'm using it as a matte object. Okay, and in this render settings, uh, so the bench shadow, I named this as a bench shadow, and I'm adding this extra render layer which I call shadow, which is color, and I'm using this source to have my shadow layer. So if, for example, I do a split top bottom, and here I have my Solaris render gallery. So we have, let's delete this, we'll do a snap, and we try to wait. Right, we do a snap and look at our shadows. So you see I have my shadows on the bench only. So in this case I render the character with all the lights, but here I want only this shadow, so I just turn off the fill light, the skylight, and if I snap I have only shadow on the bench, so I can use it separately. All right, and next is here the same thing, but in this case I want the shadow on the ground, so turn this on, turn this off. So I use it as a matte object as well. Okay, then in here this is I call it something fast shadow B, and image output the same, extra render variables shadow and this source name. Okay, and if I snap this one, I have a ground shadow. Okay, so I have those three layers at my disposal, and now I will go back to my compositing to compose everything together. All right, so this is my background image. Let me close everything, and I usually start with the color, and but in this case let's start with the shadow. Just to I start with the color just to match it first, but anyway, we know that shadow is underneath the character, so we'll start with the shadow. So here I have the EXR shadow file. Here I'm extracting my shadow and I use it as RGBA. I blur it a little bit, okay, and then I transform it just to match the scene, because uh, my scene is not very accurate in terms of the setup. Okay, um, even if the tracking is good, but the bench, I mean, it was all the wrong size, so I'm trying to mimic to place it correctly. Okay, so I transform it a little bit, and then I multiply it by color, and then I match it, and I'm trying to match my shadows color. Okay, so this is the bench shadow. The same I will do to the ground shadow. And what saves me in this case, the bench is quite bright, so I can extract. So as you see, I'm extracting the bright colors, and I'm using as an alpha. So here I'm separating my alpha, and this way, after I'm having my shadow, I want to cut it, so so I could have that illusion that shadow is the underneath the bench. Okay, and the final is the character itself. So here I'm having this. Let me just get close. So I'm having this rim around the character, because again, you need to set up it right before you start render. But in my case, because everything was done fast and not quite correct, I'm having these issues. And again, as I said, in visual effects, you need to know how to cheat in certain situation. So then I'm adding an arrow, I'm cutting it a little bit of the edges, and then I'm using a light warp I'm using the background to feel the character, to create the illusion of character's presence in the scene. Okay, and then just a little color correction and pre-multiplication. Okay, so as you see, maybe that's too much, but it's fine. And this way, let's say in a very short period of time, I'm getting more or less decent image, okay, which I can show to my clients, and then continue working on okay. So yeah, that's the process of camera tracking uh, and placing your CGI elements into the scene. And yeah, well, a lot of talking from my side. I hope it wasn't boring, and I hope it was clear for you. Um, and yeah, uh, well, that's all that I'd like to share with you in this lesson. I hope you find it useful. If you like the lesson, please subscribe for more upcoming lessons. And if you're interested, I could make more lessons on those tracking, the tracking lessons. Okay, well, thank you very much for your time, and good luck and goodbye.